Everyone talks about number 1.
With the first pick in the 2025 NBA Draft, the Dallas Mavericks select Cooper Flagg.
But what about 59? The 59th pick, or the last pick in the NBA draft, tends to go unmentioned. Not many people are still watching the draft by then. But this year it was a mystery man with one elite skill. His name is Jahmai Mashack.
With the 59th pick in the 2025 NBA Draft, Houston Rockets select Jahmai Mashack from the University of Tennessee.
And with the last pick of the draft, pick number 59, the Grizzlies acquire Tennessee Vols guard Jahmai Mashack in the proposed trade with the Houston Rockets.
So how did one of college basketball's top defenders fall to the very last pick? And how did he find himself as part of NBA history already?
I just go in, locked in, dialed in, and ready to do whatever I can.
Jahmai Mashack needed a lot of resiliency to arrive at this place where he's a finalist for the Naismith Defensive Player of the Year.
I don't think people realize how smart he is, how much he really understands the game.
There's nobody else in this world that's me, and I feel like I was unique and I was born to be unique, and no matter who I go against, it can be anybody. I'm there to compete and I'm there to prove myself.
Meet Jahmai Mashack, a 6'4" guard from the University of Tennessee. In his senior season, Mashack finally became a full-time starter and immediately made his mark as a defensive menace, earning a spot on the SEC All-Defensive team. His offensive stats were not great. He averaged an underwhelming 6 points and 4 rebounds, shooting 35% from 3. So it's fair to say scoring was not his calling card. But on the other end of the floor, he was everywhere, putting up almost 2 steals and a block per game, and hounding the best players in the country. In fact, Mashack was arguably the best defender in college basketball in the 24-25 season, drawing the toughest assignments each night and using his quick hands and feet to disrupt plays, finishing the season with the second best defensive box plus-minus in the country. His impact was so great that he was a finalist for the Naismith National Defensive Player of the Year. He could hit an open 3 occasionally and make basic plays off the dribble, but he wasn't a major threat with the ball. At Tennessee, that was fine. They had other scorers, and Mashack embraced the gritty role of a defensive stopper, helping to lead Tennessee to back-to-back Elite 8 appearances in the NCAA tournament, all while boasting one of the nation's top defenses. Still, in today's NBA, a 6-point per game scorer with a shaky jumper raises eyebrows for the wrong reasons. Mashack entered the draft as a 22-year-old senior with a defense-only reputation, a profile that often slides to the late second round. The question was, would any team bother spending a draft pick on a player whose best skill doesn't show up in the points column? Draft night 2025 arrived, and as expected, Jahmai Mashack's name wasn't called early. In fact, it started to look like it wasn't going to be called at all. As the second round neared its end, Mashack had to be wondering if he would go undrafted. But with the 59th and final pick of the draft, his butterflies were put to rest. Or so he thought, because not long later, and the 22-year-old would find himself part of NBA history already. At pick 59, nothing is guaranteed. Contracts aren't assured, and many teams draft and stash or cut players taken this late. He likely couldn't believe he was actually drafted, and he wasn't alone. Even die-hard Vols fans were stunned and excited to see their defensive star get a shot in the league. The Rockets, a rebuilding team loaded with young offensive talent, had taken a flyer on a defensive specialist. At least that's what it looked like before the biggest trade in NBA history took place. Mashack's tenure as a Houston Rocket didn't even last one night. In a dizzying sequence, the 59th pick changed hands multiple times, from Houston, then reportedly to Phoenix, then Golden State, and finally to Memphis. It turns out Mashack was a tiny piece of a historic NBA transaction. Over the summer, the league saw its first ever 7-team trade, a blockbuster that sent Kevin Durant to the Houston Rockets. According to reports, Phoenix owned his draft rights for a tiny moment, then the Warriors briefly, as part of this mega trade. Then, as deals continued to be flattened out and worked out amongst teams, Memphis ended up receiving the rights to pick 59 from Houston. For clarity, Memphis had actually traded their own number 56 pick to Golden State to move down to 59 and grab Mashack. The entire transaction was rolled into the massive multi-team trade that turned out to be the Kevin Durant deal and became official days later. Mashack even had to sit out Memphis' first Summer League game while awaiting the trade's final approval. Talk about a confusing start to your pro career. When the trade dust cleared, Jahmai Mashack was a Memphis Grizzly, and that might be the best thing that could have happened to him. The Grizzlies have a culture that adores defense and hustle. Not long ago, Memphis was known for its grit and grind era, defined by players like Tony Allen, a legendary defensive stopper who became a fan favorite through sheer toughness and defensive excellence. It's no surprise then that the Mashack pick immediately drew Tony Allen comparisons. Like Allen, Mashack is a tenacious on-ball defender, a guy who lives to shut down opponents. One Memphis writer tweeted, "I think Tony Allen is going to have a new favorite player." The Grizzlies needed to add perimeter defenders. Jahmai Mashack is exactly what they needed. And just quietly, the young man had a very good summer league for a 59th pick. In his first game against the Jazz, he played 23 minutes off the bench and put up stats in every column, with 5 points, 9 assists, 4 rebounds, 2 steals, and a block. The most impressive stat of that night, however, was how he fouled out with 10 personal fouls. The dude is a menace. Then finally, in a strong outing against Golden State, he put it all together, finishing with 15 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 steals, and a block to fill the stat sheet. On the court, Mashack's upside is clear on defense. He's an aggressive, high IQ defender who moves his feet well and uses his 6'4" frame and strong 202-pound build to battle his opponents. At Tennessee, he routinely held opponents to low shooting percentages, just 32.8% according to Synergy, which is elite. He has quick hands, reflected in all those steals, and takes pride in being the guy who guards the other team's star. In Memphis, that skill is highly valued. The Grizzlies parted ways with Dillon Brooks a while ago, their last defensive specialist on the wing, leaving an opportunity for a young lockdown defender to carve out a role. And Mashack knows it. He's embraced the team's call for dogs, players who play with toughness and grit every possession. In his own words, it's not going to be through making the most points or having the flashiest passes. It's going to be by being the hardest working dog that you can be. I've embraced that. I know what got me here. Being a dog is number 1 on that list. I don't plan on doing anything different now. Now, let's temper the excitement with some reality. Historically, pick 59 rarely makes a splash in the NBA. Many final picks in the draft never even secure a regular roster spot. But there have been some exceptions, and those few cases fuel hope. I mean, Isaiah Thomas was drafted at 60 and became an all-star. Mashack is looking to become one of those rare late draft gems. He's got an elite NBA skill with his defense in a league that always needs stoppers. He's joining a franchise that not only values what he does, but has a strong track record in developing players like him. In recent years, Memphis has found contributors in the late draft and undrafted pool, focusing on guys with one standout skill and helping them grow the rest of their game. Mashack's defense gives him that entry point. It's his ticket onto the floor. The big question is whether he can improve his jumper and overall offense enough to stay there. Scouts have been blunt. Mashack's jumper is the key to his NBA future. If he can even become a decent corner three-point shooter and a smart ball mover, it would unlock his ability to play big minutes, given how impactful he is defensively. As the 59th pick, Mashack will have to scratch and claw for everything, and that's exactly how he likes it. He's already turning heads in Summer League with his energy and defensive playmaking. In the end, the odds might be long, but could Jahmai Mashack be the one to break the mold for 59th picks? He has the pedigree of a winner with 4 years at a top program, the calling card of a defensive ace, and a chip on his shoulder the size of Tennessee. In Memphis, a city that loves the grind, he couldn't ask for a better proving ground. Pick 59 rarely pans out, but if you're looking for a candidate to buck the trend, a lockdown defender with something to prove is a good place to start. Mashack has already made history just by being a part of that wild 7-team trade. Now he's aiming to make a little more by carving out an NBA career when no one expected the 59th pick to even make a roster. Could this be the one? The odds say no, but Mashack's resolve says yes. Keep an eye on this kid. The last pick of the 2025 draft might just become the ultimate underdog story that every fan loves to rally behind. Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure, Jahmai Mashack isn't finished surprising people yet.